What's up, Conquerors? I hope everybody is having a fantastic day today. And I'm doing a guide video today on 10 intermediate tips and tricks to get better at Age of Empires 4. In my previous video, which I'll link in the description, I did 10 very simple tips and tricks to get better. For this guide specifically, though, I kind of want to up the depth and detail and move this to an intermediate level instead of a beginner level. So I'm going to cover 10 intermediate tips in this video to get better at Age of Empires 4. I think these tips are going to be, dig into the weeds a little bit more and give you a little more on what you can do to get better at the game. So hope you enjoyed this video. Most of the people watching are not subscribed, so if you enjoy the video, please drop a like. It will help the video gain traction. If you learned something from the video, please subscribe. And as always, just appreciate you guys for watching, and let's go ahead and dive right into it. The first tip I want to discuss are relics. Now, I'm sure everyone watching this video is generally familiar with relics, but I kind of want to talk about how important relics are and why relics are a central part of you winning games. So unless you're ending all of your games in feudal, which I have to say is a possibility whether you win or lose them. If you're just a full feudal aggro guy, you're going to win or lose most of your games in feudal. But if you don't have that playstyle, then you need to understand that relics are a central part of winning games in Age of Empires 4. So I want to talk about how to get or deny relics, and then how important relics are. So first, let's just talk about how to get or deny relics. It's really pretty basic, right? Once you age up to Castle Age, you'll throw down a mosque or monastery or whatever the religious building for your civilization is. You make a monk or prelate or scholar, and you send these units out to pick the relics up and then deposit them in your religious buildings. So generally the best way that you're going to get or deny relics in these early stages of Castle Age are that you're going to have units guard your monks while your monks walk out and they pick up the relic and then they walk back to the base. So something a lot of players do to deny the relics is they'll take just a select few units. It might be like 2 spearmen, 2 archers, and a knight or something. Kind of depends on the composition that your opponent's making. And you'll just put a patrol route on the relics, right? Like if you're playing against a civilization like HRE or Delhi, or a civilization you know is going to go for relics like immediately, then you need to have units on the field already to deny those relics. Right? If those civilizations hit Castle Age and you don't already have units on the field to deny relics, then you're probably going to lose the relic war. So it's kind of important to understand when you age up to Castle Age, your goal when you hit Castle Age needs to be getting relics. That's the goal. And when your opponent hits Castle Age, if they hit Castle Age before you, your goal is that you need to be denying relics. Okay? Now, why is this so important? Some civilizations have extra bonuses for relics, but I'm just going to talk about the standard relic income here, nothing too crazy. There's so many different bonuses for different civilizations, I can't cover all of that here. Each relic is 79 gold per minute for just the base Castle Age relic in your monastery. I tested this in a skirmish. And then in Imperial Age, there's actually an upgrade called Tithe Barns, which gives relics an additional plus 40 food, plus 40 wood, plus 10 stone a minute. So each relic that you have in Imperial Age with Tithe Barns is a whopping 169 res per minute. Now, why is this so important? Obviously, the resources themselves are really important for you, right? They are important in Castle for the gold, and then Imperial, they become increasingly important because it's more resources, and not only is it free res, but it's res you generate without having to build villagers, which count against your population space. So the more free res, what we call passive income, that you can have like that you don't have to build villagers, traders, fishing boats, anything like that for, you're getting passive income, right? That does not count against your population space. And so your resources gathered is continually growing, regardless of whether you're making more economic units or not. So let's say that you have 5 relics. You can kind of think about let's put it this way. You can kind of think about a 1 relic that produces 79 gold per minute as being 2 unupgraded villagers. So it's a little different once villagers are fully upgraded, but 1 relic is 2 unupgraded villagers. So let's just use that kind of baseline and say if you have 5 relics with Tithe Barns, you basically have 20 unupgraded villagers from that. Right? You have 20 unupgraded villagers from 5 relics with Tithe Barns. They're producing that much res per minute. Which is pretty shocking, right? So the Relic War is super important. It's going to keep you below your population cap. Basically, you can have a bigger army with less eco if you get the relics on the map. And the other thing is, late game, gold's going to run out on the map, right? So gold's going to run out on the map. People are going to eat up the gold mines. There's going to be a fight over trade. But if you have relics, relics is going to continue that passive gold generation for you, which is really, really important. So that's my first tip, is that if you're looking to get better, you're looking to progress in the ranked ladder, when your opponent's hitting Castle Age, you need to be denying relics. When you're hitting Castle Age, your focus and your goal needs to be collecting these relics off the map. If you're able to do those 2 things, you're going to win a lot more games. Tip number 2 revolves around learning how to punish naked fast castles, or mostly naked fast castles. Like, they made a couple troops to get to castle, but not many. There's multiple parts on learning how to punish a naked fast castle like this. And so I've kind of got 4 different steps or part of this that we want to talk through. Number 1 being, if you are a Dark Age rush civilization, if your civilization's good at making spears in Dark Age, and you're playing against a civilization that likes going fast castle or would go naked fast castle, drop a barracks in Dark Age, get aggressive, make spears, push them off their gold mine. Right? Because goal number 1 is delaying their fast castle timing. It's not necessarily winning the game in feudal, but goal number 1 is delaying the fast castle timing. Then if the game goes really well, goal number 2 can be ending the game while you're still in feudal. But really the main goal is just delaying their Castle Age timing. So if your civ is good with Dark Age spears, make spears, hit the gold mine. Then in feudal, regardless of your Dark Age pressure, or if you didn't have any Dark Age pressure, like if you're playing French and you're just going to build knights in feudal. In feudal, what you want to do is pressure gold and food resources on the map. This may mean their main gold or any food resources that they're going to expand to. Or if you're able to push them off of their main gold, they may expand out to a secondary gold mine where you'll want to hit those villagers. And what you really want to accomplish here is, if someone is going naked fast castle, eventually they're going to run out of sheep in their base. right? Whether they get up to castle or not. Like, if you delay it a bit and they do get up to castle, they'll still run out of food in their base. And so they're going to be, with that timing, they're going to really be struggling with the fact that they need to move out onto food on the map to make more units. And if they can't do that, they've effectively lost the game / died. So what you're really trying to do, if you're making, let's say you're playing French, you're making Knight Archer, you're making a ton of units out here in Feudal Age, you've got a big army, your opponents hit Castle, and they're going to start making, let's say, like Mounted Samurai, but they're running out of food in their base. They're going to have to get out on food on the map, deer, berries, something like that. That's where you leverage your bigger feudal army, and you basically form a blockade around the enemy's base, restricting them from moving to resources on the map. And you just keep piling up the military, right? That can effectively end the game. Now, you can either age up to castle yourself, or double down in feudal if you think you're able to end the game at that time. So kind of step 1, if your Dark Age civilization, make spears hit gold. Then once you're in feudal, step 2, pressure gold and food resources on the map. Step 3, something I want to talk about. You're not going to want to do this every time, but sometimes the opportunity presents itself here, where if right before they age up, during their age up, or right after they age up, your enemy to fast castle, if you've got like a massive military force at that time, like a bunch of horsemen, bunch of knights, they don't really have any units, maybe like 2 spearmen, 2 archers, something like that. A lot of the time you can just base dive their base. Now what you're actually going to need, if you're ever going to base dive under towers, town center, or anything like that, you're going to need your iron undermesh, which is your +1 range defense. And if you have that and you've got overwhelming military, you can just dive the base and go in. You don't even need a ram, right? You can just dive in, kill as many villagers as possible. Once you've cleaned up a lot of villagers, they'll either GG or you can just pull back, age up, and then the game's basically over. Now, if their age up is successful and they've got enough units to defend themselves, then your goal, like we talked about last tip, is just denying relics and trying to age up yourself. But as far as learning to punish naked fast castle or semi-fast castle, it's actually pretty easy if you're really aggressive. And if you're really aggressive, the opponent has got to make units in feudal. If they don't make the requisite units that they need in feudal, you can kill them. They won't successfully make it through this fast castle. Like, you'll either kill them and you'll never even have to get to castle, or you do enough damage that they can't recover, you age up, and then you end the game. So I'm going to have some good footage in this video, but basically what you want to do, you want to be aggressive, you want to control map resources, and with those map resources, you then leverage that into a win. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns about how to do that, I think I explained it well. I think I'll have some footage that will explain it. But if you have any questions about how to do that, please let me know. And let's get into step 3. What's up, Conquerors? For tip number 3, I want to specifically talk about rams. Because I think a lot of intermediate level players fall into what I'm going to call the trap of making too many rams. Now, rams are a good unit. There's definitely a time and place for rams. But a lot of intermediate players, I want to say, almost lose the game by making rams. So what I want to talk about today normally are feudal pushes with rams. Rams can, of course, be used later in the game. Castle Age, Imperial Age, to get some upgrades are pretty good. But out here, I'm really kind of focusing about rams in Feudal Age. Now, there are situations where you want to make rams. And situations where you want to make rams is when you're massively ahead in a game. Okay, so let's say situation number 1, you're in feudal, you've been doing a feudal push. You've already beaten the enemy army, but they haven't GG'd. So maybe the military count's like 40 to 10. And you're like, all right, he's not going to give up. I'm going to need to make some rams and end the game. So, you know, in that situation, sure, make some rams. Not a big deal. You can also, of course, just go castle and then end the game, but you can make rams in that situation. Now, situation number 2 in feudal is, let's say you're going up against an extraordinarily greedy opponent and you're still doing a feudal push. So let's say you're playing against an opponent that is playing Abbasid Dynasty. They've gone 3 town center. Both the town centers are in the front, so they're easily accessible. And you're like, all right, I'm just going to do a feudal push and end the game, right? Let's say you're playing like French or HRE or someone who's going to be pretty good in feudal there. And you just say, yeah, I'm going to go mine work with HRE, or with French, I'm going to go, you know, Knight Archer with rams. And I'm just going to go ahead and make rams and break down these secondary town centers, right? Pretty easy play, and rams work there. Now, the important thing to understand about rams is anytime you're going to throw down rams in feudal, you need to have an overwhelming military advantage. Now, why is that? Well, to actually get rams, you're going to have to build a blacksmith, which is 150 wood. Then, you're going to have to research siege engineering, with, if I'm not wrong, is 50 food and 125 gold. So 150 wood for your blacksmith, 50 wood, 125 gold for siege engineering. And then before you go in, like if you're going in on a secondary town center, you need 3 rams. So you need 600 wood worth of rams just to push the second town center. And that's why you need an overwhelming military advantage. What I see happen time and time again, some streamers, no offense to diamonds, call them the diamond ram push, is you won't have overwhelming military. You'll have the same military size or army value, and you'll start building rams. Well, if you do that, that means the opponent now has a bigger army and stronger army than you. And when you go in with rams, they're just going to destroy your entire army. So there's a pretty fine line. There's a time and place for rams. And I would just give you the general rule with rams, is if you have overwhelming military force, you have my permission to drop rams. If you don't have overwhelming military force and you start dropping rams, it's very possible that you're giving yourself a one-way ticket out of the game. So hopefully that tip was helpful. Leave a comment if you have any questions for me about building rams, and we'll get into tip number 4. What's up, Conquerors? For tip number 4, this one's really pretty quick and simple, but it doesn't really work for beginner players because they're never thinking about sacred sites, so this is a good tip for intermediate players, is that after you've aged up to Castle Age, and you have captured the relics on the map. That's kind of important. You don't really want to capture sacred sites before relics because sacred sites will always be there, relics will not. So your first goal is that you're going to capture relics. And after you've gotten relics, you've got the monks. They're just hanging out at home, not doing anything anyways. It's like people don't even want to work these days. And then we'll just send the monks out to capture the sacred sites. And sacred sites are literally free gold. So there's no reason that you shouldn't be sending your monks out to capture sacred sites. Obviously, better players are going to have units there. They'll kill your monk. They'll decap the sites, that kind of stuff. A lot of players at the intermediate level literally are not going to mess with your sacred sites. Like, even a lot of the better players, they see it get captured. They don't think about it. And so this is really twofold. One is, just one sacred site gives you 17 gold every 10 seconds. And so every minute, you're getting 102 gold off a sacred site. And if you control all 3, you're getting 306 gold per minute off 3 sacred sites, which is kind of insane as far as free res. So like if you've gotten relics and then you're getting the sacred sites, you're getting crazy gold per minute. And not only are you getting gold per minute, you're also starting the ticker on winning the game. So a lot of the time what I do is I'll capture the sacred sites, right? And if the ticker gets to like a reasonable time frame, like 5 or 6 minutes, I'm going to start throwing down walls and defenses and positioning my army for a potential sacred site victory. Like, if they keep decapping it at 9 minutes or whatever, I'll keep capturing the sites for the gold, but I'm not worried about keeps and everything like that. But if I can get the ticker, 5, 6 minutes, then I'm going to start bunkering down on the sacred site and go for a sacred site victory. So one, if you're an intermediate player, after you've gotten your relics, really key into capturing these sacred sites for gold and then potentially following it up with a victory. For tip number 5, one of the best pieces of advice that I can give you is mid to late game, you need to make more siege. And I know that's something that sounds really obvious, and you're like, well, duh, everybody does that. But I really can assure you that they don't, because I've watched a lot of games of Age of Empires 4, and even a lot of the best players are not making siege late game when they should, including myself. The most important thing you need to know is that siege is a force multiplier, right? So one, if you're floating food and gold, go ahead and throw down a siege workshop and make siege. And when I'm talking about siege, I'm generally talking about like springolds, mangonels, nest of bees, bombards. Most of the time when I think about force multiplier siege, it's mangonels and springolds, right? Because even with a smaller army, your siege does such massive amounts of damage that you'll win a lot of fights. People also have a very difficult time engaging with siege if you have springolds or mangonels. So if they're making a lot of melee infantry, don't be afraid to throw down a siege workshop and make a lot of springolds. It's devastating against melee infantry. If they're making a lot of ranged infantry, don't be scared to throw down the siege workshop and start making mangonels. Mangonels and springolds, using them in your games, are absolute game changers. Okay, so I highly advise, as an intermediate level player, especially once you get late game, but even like late castle, really start thinking about mixing in some siege. It's going to make a big difference in your gameplay. Tip number 6 is something that I actually excel at as a player. It's one of my best qualities as a player, and that's your ability to counter-raid your opponent. Now let me define counter-raid. Counter-raid means you're essentially under attack. Your base is under attack, you're under attack, you're being raided, and what you're doing while you're under attack is you're sending out a small raiding force to counter-raid / hit the opponent where it hurts in their economy. So if you can learn how to counter-raid, if you can even learn to be a decent counter-raider, and you're an intermediate player right now, I'm pretty confident that you're going to become much, much better and your rank's going to increase. Now, the best way to counter-raid, and it's difficult, right, because there's always a lot going on, is... I'm trying to think of the best way to explain this, but you don't need to know where your opponent's villagers are. You need to guess where your your opponent's villagers might be. Like, you've already scouted the entire map, right? You don't need to know that they're on a specific gold mine. Just send your cavalry there anyways, right? Like, if you've run out of gold in your base or you've run out of sheep, you know that the opponent is out on food on the map, or they're out on gold on the map. So you don't need to have specifically scouted what gold they're on or what deer pack they're on. Just send your knights there. And I guarantee that you're gonna find some villagers. So, the best way to do it, there's 2 ways you can counter-raid. One, you can watch your units the whole time, which I normally do. Or, if you're a little more APM capped and you're getting pushed, just take like one knight and shift-click a movement route, like on your opponent's wood line, or on their berries, or on their gold mine. And then just forget about the unit. And at your intermediate level, the unit's going to show up there, he's going to kill villagers, and that's going to be a W for you. So when you're first learning how to counter-raid, that's the best way to do it. And how I've always looked at it is, if an opponent's pressuring my base and I can't hold them, I know I'm going to lose, then I'm just going to start counter-raiding. Like, I'll hold the base down with infantry, I'll send my cavalry out, and I'll raid his economy to the ground. And I'm going to try to force him to pull back. That's part of counter-raiding, right? Not only are you trying to kill economy, you're also trying to force your opponent to go back to their base and leave your base. So if you can kind of take the key concept of counter-raiding and start applying it in your game slowly, and just work on, you know, when you're getting pushed, take one knight and shift click him to your opponent's woodline. Like, that's a good starting spot. If you can start mastering counter-raiding a bit, then you're definitely going to climb in ladder. So tip number 7 specifically is about when to add in a second town center. Now, this obviously does not apply to the 2TC strat where you just build a second town center in feudal. It literally doesn't apply there. This mostly applies to 1TC builds and fast castle builds. You know, when do you actually add in a second town center in those builds? Because the goal of those builds is just not to add in a second town center, right? If you're going 1TC feudal, hopefully you're just going to kill your opponent. If you're going fast castle, relic, castle age timing, hopefully you kill your opponent. Now, the question of when to add in a second town center, I get asked a lot. It's a fantastic question. And I'm not sure that I can cover every single scenario when and where you might need to add in this second town center. But here goes. So, as far as 1TC and fast castle, once I've hit castle age, and I've tried to kill the opponent, and I've already done the relic sacred sites like we talked about earlier, and I know the game's going to go longer and into Imperial. Like, I know we're evenly matched. I can't beat him right now. I'm going to macro and I'm going to throw down a second town center. And if he throws down a second town center, I might even throw down a third town center. Or I'll go 2TC with some trade cards. So you kind of have to make a switch. Like, normally I play really aggressive, right? I play really aggressive. I try to end the game. If I get to this point where I realize I can't end the game, like, it doesn't matter how many units I build and throw in here, we're stalemated, then I normally throw in a second town center. And then I try to eco up, macro up behind it to where I can get strong enough to then kill them. There's a little bit of like cat and mouse with that. Like, if they scout your second town center, they might push you. So a lot of the time, I'll try to like hide it in the back of the base where they can't see it. So you also always need to scout if your opponent's throwing in a second one. You still might be in that stalemate period. But that's normally with my aggressive playstyle when I'm trying to add in a second one. When we've already fought, the game's not over, and I realize it's going to be a long game. Like, I realize we're settling in for the long haul. It's time to throw down a second town center and get some eco going. And I'll just say as a caveat, 2TC or trade. 2TC or trade. Tip number 8, I could talk to you guys about for probably 2 hours. So I'm going to try to make it as short as possible. You guys feel free to ask me any questions that you have. It's learn how to establish and win late game map control. So there's 2 things that you want. I take that back. There's 3 things that you really want late game map control over. Big gold mines is number 1. Now, why do you need big gold mines? Big gold mines are going to continue your ability to make gold units, which are stronger units, especially when you're at pop cap and later in the game. These big gold mines are also going to be super helpful in getting your elite upgrades and university upgrades in Imperial Age. And every big gold mine that you control, your opponent does not. Number 2 are sacred sites. Now, if you're playing a map where sacred sites are in the middle of the map, and you're in this post-Imperial kind of stalemate, the likelihood of you needing to go for a sacred site victory is really quite high. And so you want to position and get this late game map control where you can go for a sacred site victory. And then number 3 is you want to be able to control the marketplace, the neutral trade market. Now, I say that because at some point in post-Imperial Age of Empires 4 matchups, you're usually going to dry the map of gold. So the opponent will have eaten all his gold, you've eaten all your gold, and then there's just the neutral trade market left. And whoever controls these markets is very likely that they're going to win the game, because that's the only source of gold other than relics and sacred sites. Now, those are the three things that are important at the end of the game, but how do we actually control those? There's really three ways to control them, funny enough. Number one is going to be army positioning. So where you position your army on the map, of course, determines how map control is lost or gained. And that might be like a slow-moving massive army. That might be like you see me do these cavalry split pushes. I attack the enemy base a lot to keep them in their base for map control. Or maybe you just have a big army you move to different points. Number two is walls. So palisade walls and Imperial really are kind of nothing. So if you get into this post-Imperial real late game, what you want to end up throwing up are actually stone walls to protect, one, sacred sites, two, your neutral trade routes. You know, your trade routes going to the neutral market. And then three, keeps. So the first thing we talked about was the big gold. And before post-Imperial, you probably threw up some big keeps on gold anyways. But if you want to secure map control and big golds, you want to throw keeps on those big golds or sacred sites. And the thing is, in post-Imperial, it's not even like the keep is for sure. It's not going to beat an army by itself. But it gives a strong defensive advantage to your army. And that's the point. So walls delay your enemy getting into your base. Keeps hold your enemy while you get there with the army to fight. So those are kind of my three tips on how you're going to establish and win late game map control. Now the one I do, which I didn't explicitly cover, is I always like keeping a little Mangudai or horseman or knight contingent that'll continually roam around the map and attack villagers. So that's kind of a special edition tip there at the end of that for you. But hopefully that's helpful as far as map control goes. If you have any questions about it, please let me know, and happy to answer them. Tip number 9, which is actually going to be my final tip. We're doing 9 tips instead of 10 tips. I actually ended up morphing 2 of the tips together. Tip number 9 is remain calm. It's always easier said than done in Age of Empires 4 games. A lot starts happening. Your armpits start perspiring. It gets hot in there. It gets hot in the room. You get sweaty. But look, at the end of the day, you're playing a video game. Take some deep breaths. And I've always found, if I'm getting my base pushed in, if I'm getting my shit pushed in, the opponent's got all these units outside of my base. When I perform the best is not when I'm trying to do as much as possible and I'm in a rush and I'm in a hurry. When I perform my best is when I kind of look at the situation, I take some deep breaths, and say, hey, this is what I need to do next. You think with a clear mind. And I think if you can master whatever comes your way in an Age of Empires 4 game, if you can just master the keep calm and carry on, then I really think you'll do a lot better in your games, right? And that includes not malding. So, things in Age of Empires 4 games happen that are going to piss you off. Not malding will help you keep calm. Will help you play better, win more games. Not panicking, again, will help you keep calm, win more games. Not getting that little adrenaline junkie rush when you're pushing in to win will also kind of help you keep calm, win more games. And honestly, a lot of it's just playing more games, right? The more games you play on ranked ladder, the calmer you'll get, the easier it is. So just advise you, if you run into those issues where you're getting like way too amped up in games, just take some deep breaths, man. Remember, it's just a game. And at the end of the day, have fun. That's what we're all here to do. We're here to have fun when playing Age of Empires 4. And that's my last tip for my intermediate players. My platinum, I really should say Platinum and Diamond. I don't think low conks, intermediate, but some of these tips do apply to low conks as well. What's up, Congers? In conclusion, we've had 9 great tips for intermediate players, our Platinum and Diamond guys, some of our low conquer guys today in this video. And I put a lot of time and effort into these videos. It might not seem like it. It might seem like it's really easy to do, but it's a lot of the clips, especially, it's hard to get gameplay footage for Age of Empires 4. So I really do hope that this video was helpful to you guys. And the best thing you can do for me, if you want to show any gratitude back, is just drop a like on the video. And if you're not subscribed to the channel and you learned something from this video, please just go ahead and subscribe. Just helps a lot with the traction of the channel and the videos and kind of what I'm trying to build here for the Age of Empires 4 community. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Greatly appreciate everybody who watched. And I'll see you guys in the next guide, as 2026 is the year of the guides.